there you go. And also, another top tip for you. If you have a car on finance at the minute and you find yourself in negative equity, all you need to do is check whether you're at half payable on the agreement. If you're at half payable, you can hand the car back to the finance company under what we call a halves and thirds termination right, which is written into the Consumer Credit Act of 1974.
Power. You don't know what you don't know. I've been saying that so often on these videos, but it's super powerful to hear that. So the Consumer Credit Act, the Consumer Finance Credit Act, has a clause inside of it as of 1974, which stipulates that if you've paid up to half or a third of your actual vehicle finance agreement, you can send the car back without paying any more. Someone needs to confirm in the comments below if this is true, because I think these are the hacks that people need to know in this day and age. People need to understand how these things work. And a lot of the time, people don't know the legalese, the language of the law. People don't know what the small print is, because a lot of people just aren't reading it. A lot of people are seeing an agreement, signing on the dotted line, driving away and thinking it's fine. And then later on, they say, oh my gosh, I should have read mine. Like, the reality is there's always going to be someone out there who knows the things that you don't know. And this is why we often say you don't know what you don't know. So the question is, how are you going to find out those things you don't know, except if you go out and find someone who does know? I'm literally excited to hear what the comments are going to be like, to find out how real this is and how many people have actually exercised this and seen that this is actually legitimate. Because a lot of the time, I know there's car finance agreements where people literally have paid 50%, they've paid 60%, and they end up in negative equity. And here's a good question, right? How often do people not end up in negative equity on car finance deals? Because the car drops 40, 50% of the value the moment you drive off the lot. Now, obviously, if you're someone who gets a car on finance, which isn't brand new, different story. Maybe it's not dropping in value as rapidly. But for most people who take a car out on finance, they will find themselves in negative equity. And sometimes it's just because of the mileage you've racked up being slightly above the mileage you agreed. I'm interested in knowing, let me know in the comments below what your experience is with this situation. Because if your experience is similar to the experience that's just been conveyed, and you now know there's another way that the game can be played, surely aren't you going to play it this new way? Surely aren't you going to say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to be the person who's not going to lose. Instead, I'm going to choose to follow the information that I can find out the brand new news. This is just literally eye-opening. So if you're someone who's got a car on finance, surely now you're probably going to be saying to yourself, I need to start finding out how this thing all operates. I need to start finding out how people work these things. I need to start finding out how it can be done. I've got a friend of mine who shared with me that one of the things she does is she literally buys her cars using a credit card, because then she racks up points, but at the same time, she's on a finance agreement. Now, obviously, if the credit card, and this is, guys, this is not financial advice, this is for educational purposes, right? But if the credit card interest rate, for example, is a better interest rate than the finance agreement interest rate you would have got or could have got, then obviously that looks like a better transaction to do in the first place anyway. And these are the little hacks that are out there that many people don't know, many people are not aware of, because they're not taught in schools. And as I often say, you can't use school tactics to achieve non-school outcomes. So the question we have to ask ourselves on a day-to-day basis is, am I using school tactics to achieve this non-school outcome? If I'm attempting to be financially free, hold on, that's a non-school outcome. So can I use my arsenal of school tactics? The answer 9 times out of 10 in that situation is going to be no. And that's the same in all of the different faculties and facades that we may find ourselves in. If it's financing a car, if it's buying a house, if it's renting a house, if it's starting a business, we have to realize a lot of these things are not things that are talked about in school. So there are a lot of things that you're not going to have the repertoire, the skill set, the tool set, the mindset as part of the community to actually deal with. So this is where it becomes incumbent upon us to go and seek advice, to go and find people that know. In the Bible, there's a powerful verse. It says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. What does that mean? That means where you have multiple people, multiple adequate advisors, people that know what they're talking about, sharing with you what to do, that's when you become safe. And I just think for most of us financially, we're not safe. And the reason we're not safe is because as a community, we haven't become the multiple of counselors unto one another. We haven't allowed ourselves to be counseled by things of value, things that are important. Instead, we're watching dances and dance hall instead of thinking about our future and how we're going to fall. So what can we do to turn this around? What can we do to turn it around? Is it just about learning hacks with car finance, or is it deeper? Is there a deeper issue in the community that we need to tackle? Are there deeper things that we need to be discussing and talking about? Are there deeper things that we need to put on the table and say, guys, let's talk about this. Let's chair this. Let's discuss this. Let's find out how we can maneuver. What's the best way forward for us as a community? What's the best way forward for you as an individual? What's the best way forward for me as an individual? What's the best way forward for us as a collective? Because the reality is, if you're not thinking from a collective mindset, you're always going to lose in any battle that you choose. And the reason why is because everybody else in every other industry has already fought in the mind of a community. That's just how it is. That's how it is, because Rome wasn't built in a day. There is no level of infrastructure in any industry that was built in a day. So what that simply means is every level of infrastructure that's built around us that we go into, if it's car finance, if it's law, if it's education, it doesn't matter what sectors you go into, if it's real estate, property, stocks, bonds, whatever you're going into something that was constructed by a community. And if you are thinking you're going to walk in there as an individual, little old you, and figure it out all the way through, the rude awakening is going to happen to you. You're going to realize very quickly, hold on a minute, it doesn't work like that. I thought I knew what to do, and then, whoo, this loophole just tackled you. And this is the reason why it's important, not just for yourself, but for your children, for your children's children, for those who you desire to leave a legacy for your spouse who's living in your house. This is why it's so important for us to take a step back in the fields that we desire to pursue and find adequate counsel that can counsel me and you. This is why it's so important to find the people who have already made the mistakes, because thanks be to God, we don't have to go make the same mistakes other people have already made, and we can find out the tactics for the game that they've played. And by literally utilizing that, guess what we do? We end up taking 7 years, 70 years, however many years it is, of knowledge, of understanding, of wisdom, and get that in sometimes 7 hours, 7 minutes, depending on how it's transmuted. And I learned that first from a coach who I had at 19, who said to me, Samuel, why take 70 years to learn what you can learn in 7 hours by reading the book of someone who had to take 70 years to write that book? That single simple piece of information back at the age of 19 radically changed my life. It's what made me an insatiable reader. It's what made me be someone who wanted to follow other people who I could recognize as a leader. It made me say to myself, hold on a minute, well, that just makes sense. If Alex Ferguson, for example, took 70 years to be able to perform at that highest level, surely wouldn't I want to find out what he did with those Red Devils, right? I want to find out the tactics. I want to find out the strategies. I want to find out the principles that he's able to employ. So if I'm in the same endeavor, if I'm coaching my team, I can understand, okay, I've got these tactics, I've got these strategies, I've got these principles to my hands. This is things I can utilize in order to equip my team so that we can start to live our dream. And this is not happening enough in our community. This is one of the reasons why it's on me. It's on me. You can see the passion coming out in this video, but this is the reason it's on me to share this message, with our community and let us know, guys, it's not just about the 1 or 2 hacks. It's not just about the car finance. It's about every echelon of life, every nook and cranny of life, every corner of life. What are we doing to make sure we don't just survive, but we have the keys in order to thrive? Samuel ICanWin signing out. Good day, God bless, and as I often say, small keys open up big doors. I'll see you on the next video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let's go.
Small keys open big doors.